the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission until we are cancelled and replaced by something far superior, which is not possible because it's my channel and I run it, to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence, to seek out new guests and make them very uncomfortable, to boldly go where many other Star Trek-based YouTube shows have gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers alike, and welcome to a live episode of Trekking Up North. That's right, we have got a day pass, we are on day release, and the YouTubes have said, yeah, you can do a live if you want.
If you fancy it, like if you feel like sort of going live and like doing videos on that'd be good.
The very first live on the Trekking Up North YouTube channel. It works, I think.
I love it. When our faces first appeared, there was this look of sort of, it's actually working. Okay, right, fair enough. We were expecting everything to catch on fire, so...
I have many windows with many opportunities to catch any errors, and everything seems to be okay at the moment.
I was really pleased. I did my first YouTube live on the Velvet Snatch channel the other week for my egg decorating competition thing, and I was excellent. Like, oh, it worked. It was actually really fun. I was just like, yeah, oh, okay, it's not too hard to go streaming on YouTube, but it just feels very complicated.
Hello,
yes, hello everyone in the chat.
Look at the
transporter
chat
room.
We have the chat. Hello, Chris. Chris from the Transporter Room podcast, whose channel you can find in the links in the description below on whatever device you choose to watch. However,
who else is here? Who else is here in the chat? Because this is what I'm excited about. Our schedules are finally aligned, and we are actually able to do a live episode. Because we keep talking about it, but you weren't available, I wasn't available, and it feels like forever since we were doing this every week live on a Friday.
It is.
As soon as we took our foot off the wheel.
It has been a hot minute. I think it was November. I think was our last live on the Nerdy Up North channel. And
that's like an age ago, isn't it?
It was an age ago, and this is the very first live on this channel. So please, everyone, hit that like button down there. If I say like, the like button should light up on the desktop, but I don't know what. Hello, Peaches, I hope not. Hello, the Velvet Snatch. But I would be remiss, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers, if I didn't introduce moi. I, of course, am Captain Goodwill of the USS Adequate. How do you do? And joining me, as ever, is the delectable, sun-bathed geesean from the planet Hog. It's Science Officer Synoiz.
Synoiz, currently dressed like a hobo, coming to steal your shoes.
No, you're wearing the velvet shirt. Currently about to summon the spirit of someone evil behind me, or I don't know. Are you the anti-pope? Is that what happened?
I love though that, you know, last time I gave the excuse of, oh yeah, I was doing this for my Twitch streaming and stuff, and it's like a Silent Hill reference and stuff, but I just didn't want to take it down. What's actually happened is I did take it down for the egg stream the other day because there was kids watching potentially. And then basically I deliberately put it back up for this.
Yes.
So yeah, I have no excuse anymore. I'm just like, yeah, okay, so
it's
guess we're in a cult now. So just imagine it's some kind of par wraith. It's some kind of par wraith cult, kind of.
The way you are framed, it looks like a demonic halo.
I'm looking a bit Anton LaVey, to be fair. If only I put the eyeliner on. It'd just be like, my children, the time has come for us to review the Drumhead.
You could just put on the wig.
Hold on, I've got it.
Yeah!
Come on.
We're live, baby!
Are we allowed to swear yet? Can I say candle slag?
It's been 6 minutes, so yes, candle slag.
Okay, hold on. Yes!
Hey!
We're doing
As
it. Where's
per
the
tradition. Hang on, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's burnt. Right, okay.
I was reading a particularly erotic passage of my grandmother's journal.
Oh my lord, it's so good to be live. Naturally,
I can't do it. I can't do it, man. It's too
It won't
warm to
light.
have hair in this way.
dinner light that candle.
Dinner light that candle.
Hey!
Hello, Beth. Welcome to the chat. Welcome back.
Take
It
this,
feels
smoke
weird
alarms.
being live after so long. The problem is we're kind of like going, we should be more serious now that we're live or something. Especially
We're
when
allowed to have
discussing
fun.
such a monumental episode, and we failed at that.
We are allowed to have fun before we get into the episode. Hey, look, everyone. I'm Rip Wheeler.
Who
Right.
is Rip Wheeler? Every
God.
day you're posting about him. Is he like?
He
is he a
is God.
TV host? Is he a
He is
cowboy?
God.
Is he?
He is God.
He's God.
He is
Okay.
God. I was an atheist until I discovered the Lord and Saviour Rip Wheeler, who does exactly what he says on the tin and rips me a new one. However,
Chat, tell me who Rip Wheeler is. Google it. I need to know.
No.
I need to know who Rip Wheeler is.
keep the mystery
'Cause I
alive.
can't Google while I'm here, okay? It'll look weird, but
Keep the
I have
mystery.
no idea who this is.
No, we can't use Google because I know, and I've not seen the video, but our very special guest giving us a challenge. I know it's going to be hard, difficult, and painful. Very much like my last colonoscopy. He is giving us
Hey,
something
it's
because
great when a guest gives you something hard. Well,
he laughed at me when he did this challenge. He sent it to me and he was like, "You're not going to win." And I'm like, oh no, because I know Chris is a hardcore Star Trek fan, and I'm just going to be like, how many rivets are in the self-sealing stem bolt barrel in DS9 episode 2 season 4? And I'm just going to be like, I might as well preload the double wheel of shame now and just
I'm
get
worried
it
now.
over.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I think to be fair, we're going to be spinning on the double wheel of shame. I can feel it now. Because we got tripped up last week and we managed it. Well, in the last episode we got tripped up by it, but we managed it. But it was like, oh, maybe my knowledge isn't as good as I thought it was.
I mean, they did reference Babylon 5. So
Don't
that's
you say
sort
that!
of,
Don't you swear in my presence!
I sort of did get a hernia from the rage that quelled within me as soon as I heard that name. But yeah. But hello to everyone in the chat. Hello, Beth. Hello, the Transporter Room, which is Chris. Hello, Peaches. Hello, the Velvet Snatch. Hello, myself. And hello to all those people who are deciding to stay quiet. We respect and love you all. You don't have to be part of the chat. You can just watch and judge and wait for our inevitable demise and cancellation. However, we are here for a very, very special episode. And what an episode to review live on the Trekking Up North YouTube channel, because this is an episode that Science Officer Synoiz has been waiting for 2 years now. 2 years.
That's crazy. We've been doing this crap for 2 years. Bloody hell.
Can't you tell? I used to be thin.
I
and
used to have a
full of
full
life.
head of hair when we started.
You did 10 minutes ago, but we.
It's if you don't know, if you're new to the channel, basically what we've done is we used to have the dabble wheel of episodes where we had every single episode of Trek almost in there that we randomly selected. But what we've done in order to discuss the best and the worst ones is we split it into the dabble wheel of honor and the dabble wheel of shame.
Yeah.
And there's 12 episodes in each. We're working our way through them. And depending on whether we succeed at a challenge in each episode, we get to spin on either the good wheel or the bad wheel. Last week we span on the bad wheel. I say last week, last episode.
Sounds like my
we span
evil
on
twin.
The bad wheel. And it was, good wheel, good wheel, bad wheel. Yeah, but basically we got a bad episode and then we changed our opinion after watching it again and analysing it.
Yes.
This week we get to spin on the good wheel, which gives us the Drumhead, which I put in there, I class as one of the greatest episodes of Star Trek, because it's one of those episodes that is timeless. Like, it's the fact of this episode is set very much in the 90s after the Cold War, very much of that political climate, and yet it's still entirely terrifyingly relevant to today's political scene and today's world and today's media. And it's frightening to see that we haven't really changed that much over all the time. So it just shows like how much, no matter how old Star Trek is, it's still incredibly relevant to modern day situations.
What was originally coined to be a bottle episode in the latter half of season 4 turned out to be an all-time classic for Star Trek that other franchises have tried to replicate, and I'll get onto that later on, but they have not been able to capture the sheer poignance and tone of this episode and the way that it is portrayed, the way that it is written. It is just, like you said, it's timeless. It is a great episode, but it is a haunting reminder that 34 years later, we are no further forward, and if anything, we are going back, and it is terrifying.
Well, it's the idea of how we can use something like Star Trek, like sci-fi, which discusses all these different races and everything, and it's got aliens and it's got like unlikely science like situations in, but then we can still learn about humanity. We can still tell stories and learn more about humanity by talking about all these different alien races and all these like unlikely situations and how there's a common thread between them. I also like the fact of, like you say, it was meant to be a bottle episode. And it's in the weirdest place. It is literally sandwiched between the Merry Men episode, where they turn into Robin, where Q turns them all into Robin Hood and stuff, and I am not a merry man.
I object, I am not a merry man.
Yeah, and a Luxana Troy episode that's about a guy having to unalive himself. And it is just the weirdest thing of going, it's in the middle of that, like a Troy episode and, and a Q episode.
Like I said, it was the
still
bottle.
Manages to be that powerful.
Yeah, it was. This was the bottle episode. It was supposed to be, the low budget. This is what we put out to save money for something else, and it turned out to be one of season 4's, if not Next Generation's, greatest episodes. And it goes to show, you don't need fantastic special effects, monumental fight scenes, or anything like that to have a good Star Trek episode. All you need is fantastic writing and fantastic direction and amazing acting, which we see all the way through this. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a Jonathan Frakes directed episode as well.
Was it? I don't know. I haven't picked up on that.
I will double check.
It explains why he has very little in it. He's only in it for a little bit, and he's just like, okay, that would have been easy actually.
So it was Jerry Taylor who written it, and it was Jonathan Frakes who directed it. It was a Jonathan Frakes episode.
Brilliant. But let's get into it. I mean, what was your opinion of this episode going into it?
Well, I'll give the audience a brief summary of the episode before we get into it. So the summary is for The Drumhead. An overzealous Starfleet admiral begins a witch hunt aboard the Enterprise, determined to find a conspiracy, and eventually accuses Captain Picard of treason. Ooh. Going into this episode, I can't remember watching. The first time I watched this, I can't remember. I was very young. I was very, very young.
Yeah.
But as I got older, and you rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch, this episode truly stood out because you get a little bit confused watching it because you're like, well, hang on, the dude's admitted it. What's going on? And then you realise that it's not about the actual it's not about the actual act or supposed act of crime and conspiracy. It is about a person's prejudice. It is about a person's conviction that that there is conspiracy in every turn, and it's a pursuit of proving guilt where there is no guilt, where there is no crime committed. And it really, Admiral Seti, or Admiral Seti, as I called her earlier on, because Sofa is, we see her unravel within this episode. This is a noble, respected admiral, conducting this investigation, and she comes on board the Enterprise, and she's highly regarded, and she was linked to the forgotten episode of season 1 Conspiracy where we had neck bugs and disintegrating corpses and stuff like that, so there's a good callback, and you go, oh right, okay, and then you just see her unravel, and you see her inner prejudices come out and her inner fears come out. And I think, like, we won't mention it, but what Picard says at the end to Worf in the observation lounge summarizes it perfectly, but is also still resonating to this day.
It's very much an episode about how we shouldn't trust someone purely upon their status. And it's this idea of we should always give everyone a free trial. We should always give someone like the benefit of the doubt rather than just assuming things about them. And what we see her accusing people and going, well, obviously they're like this, so they're obviously a criminal, and we can assume that, and then we've just got to find what crime they've done. And it's this idea of they've kind of decided someone's guilt first, and then they're trying to prove their innocence out of it, rather than the other way round of going, hey, they are innocent, let's prove the guilt.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, but the other side of it is that people seeing her that way, of starting off a particular way and assuming that she's innocent and that she's got everyone's best intentions at heart, and then realizing, actually, no, she doesn't. And it's wonderful because what we see, basically the plot of the episode is that an explosion has happened. An explosion has happened in the warp core, and they're trying to work out what has caused it. And then when they start looking into things, they realize that actually this Klingon exchange officer that they've got is very much seems to be a spy, where basically they found him being suspicious. They found that information regarding the warp core has been transmitted to the Romulans. They're not quite sure how this has happened, but they're basically sort of looking into what's happened here. And they've called on Admiral Satie out of retirement because she has such experience in unraveling conspiracies and whatnot, and she comes from, like, her father was really, an amazing, like, man and judge before her, and they've got her on board to kind of go, hey, what's going on, like, is there a bigger thing here? And that she kind of comes on board going, yes, there's obviously a conspiracy, and then she's kind of seeing a conspiracy without the evidence there. And that as they start looking into stuff, they're like, oh, actually, that doesn't really hold up. And she's like, well, we just need to find what makes it happen. And it's like, well, no, that's not how evidence works. You don't kind of go like, oh, well, we've got C, so that means there must be an A and B somewhere. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't.
It's very much where this admiral is highly regarded and highly respected, and how that blinds people to the way that she operates. And we see that when so I mean, we highly recommend you go watch this episode. We won't be doing a scene by scene or anything like that, so we will dart left and right for this. So like Synoiz said, there's an explosion in the warp core, and because of the high levels of radiation, they can't carry out a forensic investigation for a number of days because the radiation needs to dissipate. So we sort of see within that time frame that Satie is, talking to the Klingon exchange officer, who is revealed to be a spy, and they find out. Worf finds evidence that he's been doing is he's converting isolinear chip data on an isolinear chip. It's fantastic, where basically he was accessing terminals, downloading information via a isolinear chip, which is like a Trek version of a USB key, and then he has a hyperspray, which is like a syringe, a 24th century syringe, and he can convert the data from the chip into amino acids, which he can then inject into an unsuspecting person or whoever he wants to be able to transmit the data. So and
the reason why he has that syringe is because he has a condition called Balthazar syndrome that requires regular injections. So basically he's got this thing that he should have, no one's going to suspect him of carrying it, but that it's able to transmit data into what is it, like what is it? What does it
It
say?
converts it can convert the data into amino acid sequences.
Into inert proteins, and then basically he doesn't explain it fully, but basically he injects that into someone, and then the Romulans find that person, take that the information out of them, and no one's the wiser. But it basically draws suspicion of, they basically interrogate him, and then they go like, oh well, he's obviously lying, he's guilty, kind of thing. So they work that out because Worf's able to piece it all together. However, they can't link him to the explosion. They can't link him to the explosion in the warp core. And Admiral Satie's assistant, who's a Betazoid who can read emotions and mind. No, he can't read minds, but he can read emotions. Basically goes, oh well, he's not lying about that. So if he's not lying about that, then there must be another person on the ship who did the explosion. Therefore, we need to question more people and get more people involved. And it keeps going on like this. And because they haven't been able to actually look into the warp core yet, because it's still radioactive, they haven't actually found. They can't go, oh well,
they
actually,
can't get
it was
the
an
key
accident.
bit of evidence. Yeah, they can't find, they can't, because it's all sealed off, they can't carry out a forensic investigation at the blast site to go, oh, it was this type of bomb, or there is DNA evidence, or it was an accident. They can't find that. So they are going purely off, and this is where the first fragments of Picard's doubt sets in.
Yeah. Patience starts to wear.
Patience. But they go purely off this Betazoid's mental instinct that, oh well, he's clearly not doing it, therefore if he's not doing it, he must have a collaborator, there must be a conspiracy on board. And then they get, and you know, it's one of those cases, it's one of those things where someone has, you know, they've been able to successfully get an admission of guilt from this spy, and then they're on this sort of high and they go, well, we can do it again. I've seen it so many times where they go, well, we can do it again, we've done it before, and we can do it again, and we must be that, and we can find this, because if we can do this, we can break this person. And I
think I was going to mention this later, but I think it's important to mention it now, that there is very much an assumption, and it happens so much nowadays, where people don't realize that people are multifaceted. Like, people kind of go, oh, if this person can lie about this thing, then they must lie about everything. So they kind of go like, oh, well, if this Klingon guy can lie about sort of, passing the information on, then he must be a liar in every single thing he does. And then there's other characters that it has where it goes, hey, because we've found like this bad thing about them, then they must be bad. And it's this horrible thing that we do a lot of the time in politics. You'll see it a lot of time, like the Republicans in America are really bad for it, where they basically go, oh, what we'll do is we won't attack what the person's actually saying. We won't actually sort of attack their views or attack their actual sort of like principles. What we'll do is we'll attack them on a personal level, or them at a personal way, in order to discredit someone and go, why would you ever trust or listen to this person? They had an affair or something. And you're like going, that's cool, however they're here to do this, and that isn't really relevant to that. But then it's this idea of trying to discredit someone based upon random stuff that isn't related to things, in order to prove their guilt in something else. And we see it with the Klingon, we see it with Mr. Tarsus later, who we'll get into, and we see it very much with Picard. And you realize, like, this is how conspiracies build up, where people taking loads of unrelated stuff of going, well, that guy did this, so he's not trustworthy, so he must be a suspect. And two things happened on the same day, so they have to be connected. And it's just a house of cards. And luckily, we see it fall apart before it gets too far. But it's the fact that people work in this kind of way. But I just want to say, we skipped over it, but basically when Admiral Nora Satie comes on board, she's got two assistants with her. She's got a Betazoid, who is Saban, who is very key to the plot and whatnot. He's the one we've been talking about. But she also has another one called Melantor, who's like what do they call that, where they take notes or whatever? Scribe, yeah, effectively. But she basically is Space Bjork. So that's what I'm going to be referring to her. So basically, it's like Saban and Space Bjork. It's just like, but and it's quite cool though, the different archetypes that they fill, because like Saban is very much the same as Satie, where they are very much kind of, look, I've got a job to do. I'm here to do it. I don't care who I throw under the bus or who I hurt. The important thing is doing the job, which anyone who's been in any workplace knows these bastards. Like,
These
knows
are the
these
people,
people who are
yeah.
like, oh, it doesn't matter if people have to work on their days off, or it doesn't matter if someone's like off on mental health grounds or something like that. Oh well, I've never had to do that. Like, it's that worky ticket kind of.
I've never been proven wrong, therefore I must always be right.
Yeah.
And
Everyone should take their job
Yeah.
as seriously as I take it.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you just have nothing outside of this. I mean,
Yeah.
Sati admits it. Sati literally says, I don't have any friends. I don't really talk to people. It's just like, I mean, I've always held, like, you can tell how trustworthy and, like, nice someone is based upon how many friends they have. Because the people who tend to throw everyone under the bus are the ones that don't tend to have many friends, you know?
When I heard that in the scene between herself and Picard, yeah, I had a lot of flashbacks to a lot of people I have met in my life where you're just like, yeah, you're not a nice person and you will trample over people. But then she goes back into a backstory about a father who sort of conditioned her brother, you know, his son and daughter to be these lawyers, these arbitrators, these judges of these acts, and he would pit them against each other to hear out a case and stuff like that. And you're like, you sort of feel sorry for them because they've not really had a life. They have not really enjoyed the fruits of their labor, because it's always, we do this, we move on to the next one, we do that one, we move on to the next one. And she says it herself, she spends her life planet ship shuttle. She hasn't seen her family in years and she doesn't have any friends. Her life is the career, is the job, and you have to think,
and it's
what
also
you have
she
to
does that to honor her father.
She does.
She basically goes, I need to be like this to honor my father, but it's also destroying her life being like that.
She does, but you have to think that how much coaxing did it take to bring her out of retirement? Because she strikes me as the type of person where you know, the age-old movie where someone's chopping a log and a helicopter lands and it's like, we need you, they've got my wife, blah, blah, blah.
You mean generations, basically.
Generation, yeah, but what I mean is, like, she strikes me as a woman that retirement was never an option for her, and that she was mustered out forcibly to retire, and any opportunity to get back in it, like Kirk in Generations, but it's any opportunity to get back, she jumps at the chance. And because she's so highly regarded and told she's highly regarded, that she has this almost superior ego of what I judge and what my investigations come out with must be the truth, and anyone who disagrees with that is either involved or wrong. And we see that all the way through this episode.
Well, I think the important thing is that basically, like you say, she got brought up to go, hey, you need to fight for this, you need to fight for, like, you know, the truth and whatnot. But effectively, she becomes a witch hunter. Her life has been uncovering conspiracies.
Oh yeah.
But the problem is, like with a witch hunter or whatever, it's like, how do you gauge success? She wants to be successful in her career. She wants to help the world. But the way that you gauge success by being a witch hunter is how many witches you find. So it's this idea of she's looking for conspiracies. She's wanting everything to be a conspiracy. She's hoping in her heart that there's a conspiracy going on so that she can go, hey, I uncovered it. I did my job. I've made my dad proud. And it's like, no, the success should be there are no conspiracies. Everyone's safe. But instead she doesn't.
But you make a great reference, because this story is heavily influenced by the Salem witch hunts.
Yeah. It's heavily, Picard references loads of stuff. It's the witch hunts, but also it's the Cold War. It's we have all these films where it's literally like, oh, everyone's a communist, and it's rooting out the people who are actually Ruski spies, and we can't
Is your neighbor working for the Reds and stuff like that?
Oh, you know, is your, like, because there's a wonderful scene. Sorry, well, I've got a point I need to get back to, but basically there's a wonderful scene where it's with the Klingon. What is the Klingon's name? Zidane. There we go. Zidane, but basically, where they're talking about, like, you know, where Picard is talking to Worf about him, and and he says basically like, what is it? I've totally forgotten. Okay, but yeah, it's like, oh no, I can't find the notes. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's it. Have we become so fearful, so cowardly that we must extinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy? Now, this applies to one character later on, but it also applies to the Klingon, where it's the fact of like he is doing bad, but it's the fact of we're still going like, hey, the Klingons and the Romulans are the Russians during the Cold War.
Yeah.
It's basically, and it's like they're not all bad. They're not all bad. We know that, but when you're at war with someone,
But
everyone kind of assumes that. But it's like, but yeah, but we're not anymore.
but
So
the
why are we still
parallels,
being paranoid?
but the parallels to modern society
Yeah,
in the, I mean, we all know what's going. We won't mention certain things, but we all know what's going on the other side of the pond. I don't want to lose my visa, but we all know what's going on the other side of the pond, and it's that case of they have fostered this culture, this belief that they are, they're different to me, therefore they're all bad, therefore anyone who looks like them must be deported, and they're trying to, I mean, these people, it's been 80 years, and these people don't really learn much, have they? They don't really study history. They've not really learned from the actions of the past, but it's that thing where, and it is that thing like, are they an enemy? Is it everyone? Are you tarring everyone with the same brush? Like,
yeah.
why
I mean,
why must this person be the enemy because he's got the blood of, like you say, think of the Russians, but it's like, why is he the enemy? Yes, he may have the same blood, but does that make him the enemy?
But that's it. It's people guilty by association. It's the idea of like what we hear about what's happening in America with like people being deported, where it's this idea of like, but it's got so silly that you have like people who might be there illegally, where there might be a legitimate claim to go, oh, actually, yeah, they're here illegally, send them away, kind of thing. But they're just chucking them out, and then they're kind of getting other people being like, well, they're from Mexico, so they obviously shouldn't be here. And it's like, nope, nope, they've got a valid job, they've got a valid visa, or actually they've lived here their whole life. Like a friend was telling me about his friend from, oh, what's it called? It's bollocks. It's not Mexico, it's not South America, but it's somewhere around there. And basically, because they look that way, they basically got stopped at the airport, and it was like, oh, well, we're gonna have to check your passport, and they were like trying to take her passport off her, and then go, oh, well, you don't have a passport, and it's like, yeah, but because you took it off me. And they were trying to play that whole game because she looks like she should be, and you're just sitting there be like, wow, this is, and that whole thing of that's exactly what this episode is. This episode is like assuming guilt based upon someone's heritage, or assuming because of the situation that you're in, and then going, oh, now you need to prove your innocence. And it's like, no, you are innocent, and then we need evidence to prove that you are guilty, not suspicions, not sort of assumptions, not sort of associations. And that's the problem when you have any kind of results based reward system, where it goes, how many witches have you found today? Oh, well, you're not doing a very good job here.
Yeah,
But
when you've found all the witches, what do you do to fill your quota up?
yeah, and that's it. It's the idea of these people never sleep. I mean, but the one thing I wanted to mention though is, how I mentioned about Saban, the Betazoid, and how
Yeah.
he's like Sati and he's like very progress. The other one, Space Bjork, is actually, I quite like them because they only speak once in the entire episode, but they're constantly there, and we realize like these are sort of these sycophants. Like she's very much
Yeah.
a character that's very silent, very obedient, but she seems actively malicious. Like it's the fact that Saban genuinely thinks he's doing the right thing, whereas Melantor actually seems to enjoy that this stuff is happening, seems to enjoy that people are getting accused, seems to enjoy, like they're just there for the ride in a certain bit. Like
They
when she
feel
comes to Picard later and she kind of goes like, oh, you've been requested at a trial, she's genuinely smirking. She's happy that this is happening.
she feels and this is just an assumption, Space Bjork feels that she's on the right side of history at this moment. That, Sati is in the right. She is doing the right thing. There is this conspiracy because Sati has told her there is a conspiracy on board this ship and she is going to find it. So for her to be told, take this, go to Picard because we are summoning the captain himself, it's almost deep satisfaction for her to be going, here you go, there is a conspiracy and we are going to drag you down. Yeah.
We see these people on both sides of the argument. Like we see so many of them on the left. We see so many of them here on the left where it's the idea of going, when someone does something bad or when Trump says something stupid or Musk's like stocks are falling and stuff like that. We've got people laughing and taking glee in it and stuff because they believe that they're on the right side of things. I mean, I think they are, but at the same time, it's like that is not, and then on the right, we have people going, oh, these stupid libtards or whatever they call them, doing all this and stuff. And like, oh, I'm glad that they're, losing their jobs or getting deported or whatever. And you have these horrible people on both sides taking joy in the suffering of others. But you're like, you're the court. Like in this episode, you're genuinely the ones who are supposed to be impartial. And yet we have like Sabin, who's practically a robot who's so convinced by things. Sati, who is very much driven by emotion and driven by this feelings of she has to do this to make her father proud. And then Space Bjork, who is just kind of there for the ride, enjoying it, and she doesn't care who gets burnt at the stake. Yeah. And it's this horrible triad that starts off seeming so trustworthy and so sort of wonderful and so sort of, respectable. And by the end, you just go, you are monster. Like, what does Worf say right at the end? Worf says, I believed her, I helped her, I did not see her for what she really was.
Yeah. You have, with Sati, Space Bjork and Sabin, you have that perfect trifecta of the ringleader, the one that believes that they're always right, the space manager. You have the enabler. Space manager. You have the enabler in Sabin that encourages this behaviour and also sort of feeds off it themselves because they want to be like Sati.
They justify each other. Like, he proves that she's right, she proves that he's right, and then they're like, hey, we've convinced each other that we're sort of solid.
And then you've got Space Bjork, which offers uncompromising support in everything that they do, and not, most importantly, do not question motive, actions, or judgments made, because they deeply believe, no matter what, this person is right. So if they say, Picard's involved, they believe Picard's involved, and they don't have the ability to have that process of questioning. Is this the right thing to do? Is what Sati is doing morally correct? Is the evidence showing that Picard is involved? Despite, as we see mounting evidence and, all but fact that this was what happened. They're going, no, there's a conspiracy because of X, Y, and Z. And when you look at that and you mirror it to today, you mirror it to culture today, where it's like, hey, there is direct evidence that X is happening because of Y and Z. Here is the empirical evidence. Here are the facts and figures. And then someone goes, no, it's because of this, because I was told it.
Well, I think the thing is, something being wrong or something not having evidence for it doesn't prove that something else is right. Like you know me, I love having discussions, and I discuss anything with everyone. And so I had a wonderful discussion with a flat earther like a couple of months ago, and it was fascinating to get really deep into what they believe and like sort of the stuff and talk about the evidence and and obviously because sort of sitting there being like, I'm not really needing to delve too deep into physics to kind of go, that doesn't make any sense. However, it was the fact of going, oh, well, the moon landings aren't real because I believe that because of this, that, and the other. That means that space isn't real. And you're like, no, that's a leap. Like, how you just because, like if you sit there being like, just because like the government lied about this doesn't mean that NASA is a fake organization and space isn't real. But they do. They jump to these conclusions where they just go, oh well, if the government lies about this, then they must lie about everything. And it's these assumptions that we do rather than just going, someone might be an absolute twat. Someone might be the worst person. Like take someone like the current sitting president of a certain country, and we just go, he probably has some positive traits. I mean, we don't really get to see them, kind of thing, but we can't assume that every single thing he does is awful just because we know he's done loads of awful things. But people do. People kind of pick on these celebrities who have done bad, like Katy Perry. Like, I'm sure Katy Perry's like, I maybe not a particularly nice person, but it's the fact of everyone's like being horrible to her now because she did this horrible media faux pas going to space and stuff, you know. But it's the fact of going, how are you assuming all this other stuff about her based upon one bad action or such? I've gone off on one there.
No,
I'm trying to bring it very much into modern day situations and how people react to media, how people react to evidence, and how they dream up evidence to connect things together, and how that's not how law and logic and science work.
But the use of Katy Perry is a good example, because people go, oh, she acted like this going up into space, which is like upper stratosphere, but you know, and oh, she's bad, she's self-centered, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, they take that one thing and draw that conclusion, where others go, yeah, do you realize she evicted nuns? And do you realize she did this? Do you realize that one of the nuns dropped dead in court because of this? And you think she's bad for going into space? And it's sort of like, you know, you look at, but in the thing of this episode, we see that with Tarsis, which we will get onto, it's one thing, and that one thing is not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily bad. Yes, he did wrong, but that does not make him overall a bad person. Look, we have all been dickheads in our time on this planet.
Mostly for me.
Mostly for him. Definitely for he is a massive bellend, let me tell you. He punched so many kitties in Vegas, it was unbelievable. But
I have a portable wood chipper purely just throw kittens into whenever the urge comes
I couldn't put the roof down in the car because I'd just be drenched in blood. But anyway, we digress. But we've all done
I can't really defend myself when I'm sitting here with a bloody arcane symbol.
Exactly.
It's not like any Christian who tunes into this is going to be like, he seems like a believable sort.
Sunderland Council, check his wheelie bins. But we, you know, but we have all done bad things in our lives. There is no excuse for that. It does not make us overall a bad person, and we see this where we see, you know, when they start going after Tarsis, when they start going after Picard, they have done bad things. Does that make them a genuinely bad, awful person because of that? No. No one is pure. No one is an angel. No one. I will fight that. No one is an angel. People have done bad. It's how you learn from it. It's how you deal with it, and it's the consequences of the actions that you have after that. And
this is why law and the political and the law system is required. This is how it's meant to work. You can't just be like, oh, this person's a criminal, so why are we having a trial? They obviously did this thing we're accusing them of. It's like, no, it needs to be a clean slate. That's why we have juries. That's why we have juries that have to be picked from people who don't know anything about the previous situation, so they can sit there in court, hear the evidence for this specific case without like forming prior opinion or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yet that's exactly what we have that isn't here. I mean, let's talk about Tarsis, because what we have is we basically have, because the explosion happened, they're convinced that the Klingon didn't have anything to do with the explosion, but the explosion must have been done by someone. They start interviewing everyone surrounding the Klingon to see if they were like linked to him, and they eventually interrogate a science officer called what's his name? It's
He's like
Simon Tarsis.
he's a medical crewman called Tarsis who works in sickbay. Yeah.
And they interview him, and he's noticeably nervous. And then as they're chatting, they're basically going, "Hey, what relation do you have to the Klingon guy?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I gave him some of his injections and stuff, but I don't really know him that much. But other people were." And he's noticeably nervous, and we kind of yeah, he's noticeably nervous. And then after he and then he talks about how his paternal grandfather was Vulcan, and that's why he's got like ears like he does and whatnot. And then when he leaves the courtroom, they're like, "Oh, well, nothing seems to be wrong there." And then Saban stops them and goes, "No, he's lying. He's covering up a lie that's so strong that it's like, actually hurting him." And Picard's like, "Well, we could see he was nervous, but, it's probably just because he's not used to being interrogated." And Saban is so convinced that he's hiding something that the fact that he's lying about something means that he is guilty in this specific instance. And that's the leap that he goes to that damns this officer, basically.
I have a question about this, and it's a slight tangent, but we know Marina Sirtis got her paycheck in the first few minutes of this episode, and just that was it. Why was she not more involved? If you had two Betazoids on the ship, would you solely rely on one, or would you sort of have another Betazoid there to sort of corroborate what Saban is saying? So say, like, if you've got Saban and he's go, "Nope, he's hiding something," I would, if I was Picard, I would go, "Counselor, do you feel what Saban has felt with Tarsis?"
I think there's a lot of aspects here, because the fact is Troy is kind of involved throughout the episode, even though she's not physically there. She gets her paycheck in like one of the first scenes where she's talking to Picard, that I want to mention. But effectively, it refers to her when Picard and Sati are having a conversation about. Picard is basically saying, "How can you make decisions purely based upon a Betazoid's like sort of assumption of guilt?" Like, going, "Hey, this guy's lying about something, therefore, he's obviously guilty. How can you rely upon that feeling?" And then Sati points out, "But don't you do that with your counselor? Like, don't you actually make judgments upon people? Or don't you have her sit in on, like, interrogations to tell whether people are lying?" And Picard admits it. He goes, "Yeah, actually, I do. That is totally how he uses them." So Troy is kind of referred to in that way. But it's also, A, too many characters writing the episode would make it overcomplicated. But B, I don't think Saban, with his privileged position and his kind of arrogance, would want another person giving a second opinion. I kind of feel like Sati's like, "We don't need another Betazoid. He's perfect. He's right about everything. That's why I brought him along." So I think there's an aspect of like the hierarchy there, but also it would be an impossible script if we also brought in the whole "but she disagrees,"
It's very much, they are the allegory for the lie detector.
Yeah, and it's like lie detectors are often wrong because they work on the assumption like we have nowadays with people who are neurodivergent, and we didn't realize this as much in the past, where we just go, "Yeah, people get nervous about random stuff. That doesn't mean they're lying. It just means that their pulse goes weird for no particular reason, or because the lighting in the room is weird or something." And it's like, and but that's why they're not admissible in court, effectively.
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was going to say.
Tarsus.
But like, and it's this horrible thing where they basically decide that Tarsus, because he was lying about something, is lying, and but I was going to make a joke about like how useless Betazoids are, because obviously Marina Sirtis has mentioned it a lot, where she's like, "Hey, I was meant to have this really deep character, and then I'm literally in a cat suit, and all I do is go, 'Oh, he's lying, Captain,' or 'Oh, he's hiding something from you.'" And it's always like the stupidest thing where you just like, obviously, it's like, it's like the fact that like, it's like Tarsus is sitting there being like, "Oh, well, I don't really know," kind of thing. And it's just like, having someone there being like, "Oh, he's nervous." And you're like, really? You could tell that all the way from
wow. Thank you, Captain Hindsight.
Magical powers. And it's very much, and that's exactly what Troy does in this episode. She's just there to be like, "Ooh, he's not telling the truth," and it's like, wow, But then but then it kind of makes a joke. It kind of gets this joke and makes it really serious by being like, yes, but that assumption can ruin someone's life, which is effectively what it does. Because the twist is that basically later on in the episode, when they investigate Tarsis more, they basically realize that he lied about his heritage. His paternal grandfather wasn't Vulcan, he was actually Romulan. And because they are currently at war with the Federation, well, there's an accord, but
It's a
effectively,
Cold War.
yeah, they are very much not trusting each other.
Yeah.
That basically they go, he lied because he knew that if he was Romulan or perceived as Romulan or related to Romulans, that he would be a spy or he would be a traitor. So he lied on his application to Starfleet, and then he's basically gone on through Starfleet, had a wonderful career kind of thing. He's been like a model, like officer and whatnot. However, that he still lied. Therefore, because he's a liar, everything he says must be called into question. And here's a point I really, really want to make. How scary it is when, if you have the ability to draw up information about someone, how specific, or that you need to have a really good reason to investigate stuff, okay? And this points out, like, they just assume that because he lied on his Starfleet application, that he must be guilty of something. And then we have a scene with Worf and his like officers, his security officers, and he's basically saying to them, okay, look into all of his past, look into all of his logs, look into all of his personal stuff, look into like all of his friends and question them and everyone he's ever known and chat to them and stuff, and let's work out everything about this guy in order to see if he's guilty of this crime. What gives anyone the right to do that? And it's like nowadays where you just realize how much of a digital footprint we have. Where if the court goes, oh, you've got a parking fine, that means we're allowed to look into your WhatsApp messages and read every personal thing you've ever said on Facebook and look at every single picture on your phone and look at every, look at your LinkedIn and, ask this company to hand over your passwords so we can look at your banking details.
But this is what's happening in the world today,
and
with
it's
a current
terrifying.
superpower. Where I have been over there. I have been over there a few times. The last time I went over there, I was asked, with you, I was asked. No, it was when I applied for my visa.
All they asked me was sucky $5. So
that was Thailand, but it was, they ask on the visa waiver to input your social media, right? Now they say optional. Don't worry about it. Don't have to do it. Optional. But now we're hearing people are going over and they are taking their phones, plugging those phones in and accessing all the information on the phone, right?
Yeah.
Because in the small print, well, we can do that because if we believe that you're a risk, we have the ability to do that. And it's terrifying because you might not have done anything wrong, but you certainly don't want a massive superpower to have a look at your nudes all over your phone.
Yeah.
I did that to flex.
Which ties directly into what Picard says at the end of the episode. Obviously, we're jumping ahead a bit, but it's this idea of basically sort of the amazing speech he gives, which is obviously from Aaron Satie, who is Admiral Satie's father. But it's with the first link the chain is forged, the first speech censored, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied, changes us all irrevocably. It's the idea of, as soon as people go, hey, I can look at your phone. In order to get into this country, we need to be able to we need to know your social media profile so we can speak to Meta and get access to all of your data and every website that you've looked in or every link you've clicked on off Facebook or whatever, every comment you've ever left. We need to be able to look at that and invade your privacy, invade your freedom in order to protect other people from a threat that might not even be there.
And the twist is, if you say no, why? Have you got something to
Yeah.
hide? Why don't you want us
That's
to have a look?
and that's exactly what Worf says.
Yeah.
Worf says to Picard, why would he not answer the question if he had nothing to hide? So why wouldn't you hand your phone over to security if you didn't have anything dodgy on it?
Yeah.
And it's the fact of this is an episode from 30 odd years ago, and this is happening now. Like that is it's terrifying.
It's
And
that
that's why I love this episode, because it opens your eyes to just
It's
how
a
freedom
reference.
is eroded for security.
It is a reference to what happened in 30s Germany and 40s Germany, eroding that freedom, eroding your freedom under the guise of this is national security. It is happening again in the 2020s. It is happening again, and it is frightening, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's like we have not learned. We have not learned from the past. And if an episode from 34 years ago can question this, can make these references, and it is still happening 34 years later, what the hell is going on?
And then, but what we see, like we have that scene between Sati and Picard where they're both talking about how they use the same methods, where they use some of the same methods. Like they both have a betazoid that they use to like sort of gauge situations. But it's the difference between Picard realizing what information is too much and Sati going, well, we might as well know everything. But then it's the whole thing of going, Picard is so trustworthy and such a good man that he goes, I don't need that. I shouldn't be stomping on your freedom just to kind of like make myself feel safe. Where Sati is very much going, no, everything should be an open door because I'm fully trustworthy. And yet the reality is she's a monster. Like she is the most corrupt person in the entire episode, and yet she's the one saying you should give all your data to me. And that's exactly what we've got now, where we've literally got like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and like what's his name, Donald Trump. Are they the people you want to give your data to? Are they the people that you want to have like open access to like all of your information? No. And it's the people who can be trusted with it are the people who would never ever request it or never ever actually, like expect it. And that's the thing. It's the idea of just, it's terrifying,
But
if I'm honest.
when they actually are able to inspect the warp core and the damage, and they have a look, and they come to the conclusion that look, this was not a deliberate act, that the hatch was replaced with a defective hatch, and it's just poor timing that we had this spy among us, and that this defective hatch broke down and caused this around the same time. And again, that leans into the whole, well, we've got this and then this happens, so they must be linked together no matter what, because why would two events like this happen at the same time? They have to be linked somehow.
And it shows that coincidences happen. It's the fact of like, because we have data, and this is the scary thing, because we have people who can be wrong, but we trust them. So for instance, Data is never wrong. Geordi is a genius. Data is like a genius and is never wrong about stuff, and it's always trustworthy because he can't lie. And then they're the ones saying to Sati at the beginning, yeah, this must have been a deliberate action because we can't see any evidence for how it could possibly happen. And then when they look into it, they kind of have to turn around and admit, oh, actually, yeah, no, it's very, very unlikely, and that's why we disregarded it, but it actually was an accident. But then the scary thing is, once faced with this evidence, after she's gone so far down this path, she has to save face. And Sati has the line, just because there is no sabotage doesn't mean there isn't a conspiracy upon this ship. And you're like, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Like, it literally, if there's no sabotage, then there's nothing to investigate. But then she's going, no, we've started, so we might as well keep going kind of thing, because I've convinced myself that there is something. And then they start looking for evidence
they start
of
believing
this thing
their
that doesn't
own.
exist.
Yeah, they start believing their own. What's not lie, but they start believing their own narrative that there is this. They convince themselves, despite the fact there is no longer anything there, and what assumption was made before has now been completely disproven, and here is the scientific evidence that they believe the narrative that there is something going on. And then when we see Saban and Taris, and Saban is like, you work in the same lab that has these highly volatile chemicals that were linked to the warp, and it's like, okay, you are now fabricating a possibility, fabricating a what's a plot, with no evidence of this.
But this is the scary thing, though, where it's the idea of court opinion is treated as though it's evidence. Where it's the fact of, even if you know something's not true, like, this is the problem we have with a lot of stuff, where basically people believe in something, and they're like, oh, we just haven't found the evidence for it yet. And you're like, well, why do you believe in it? Oh, faith. And these people are working on faith, where they believe there's a conspiracy. They haven't found the evidence of it yet, but they're so certain that it exists. Like, in science, you get it, where you have cause and effect, where you go, hey, this thing happens, and it has this result, but we don't know the middle bit. And then eventually there's theories for what the middle bit is, or like, oh, there must be a new particle, or there must be some kind of thing that we can't view yet. And sometimes it comes out over time, but sometimes it doesn't, and it's something totally different. Or we literally turn around and go, oh, actually, no, that's just wrong. It's just been a weird coincidence that's always kind of kept together.
That's a case of faith until they have proven it. Like, we believe it is there. We are not convinced. We are not saying it is there no matter what, and I will die on this hill. But we will attempt to prove, like Heisenberg.
And what we see is when they start interrogating Tarsis in court, Seti opens it to be an open court, where she allows people to be there who aren't involved with the proceedings, just people who are watching. And it's a horrible move, because basically she opens it up, and then Picard goes, why are you doing this? And she's like, oh, well, spies don't like sort of having a light shined in their eyes and stuff like that, and it makes them slip up and stuff like that. But effectively, it's not. It's that basically more people can be brought in by her lies and convinced. And if a room full of people starts believing her bullshit, then she'll start believing it. And it kind of gives it credence, even though there isn't actually any evidence. And you see this a lot.
That's what the witch hunts were.
Yeah, and that's literally where we kind of go, there is no evidence. However, then Saban says to Tarsis, like, what if I was to tell you that acid that was used to damage the warp core and cause the explosion was found in your sort of lab cabinet? And that's not true at all. There was no acid found at the scene. That was not at all. But the people in the room don't know that. The people in the back rows, they're just going, oh, wow, oh, well, there was acid used. Oh, he's the only one who has access to that acid. Oh, well, he must be guilty then. So the important thing is finding him guilty, not providing the evidence to point to that. Yeah. And that's the dangerous nature of, like, it's like in America, where if you can convince enough people that the immigrants are actually here as well, bloody reform, if you can convince the people that the immigrants are the problem, you don't need to explain why they're the problem. You don't need to provide evidence of, like, oh, well, they cost this much and they're doing this and there's that many evidence of this and stuff like that. You don't need to do it. You've just got to convince enough people that that's a thing, and they'll just parrot it between themselves, and then it'll become a thing,
I mean, look at our local elections in the last week or so.
I love the local elections, where people are like, oh, well, I voted for my local council to be, like, reforms, they'll send all the immigrants back, and you're like, which is a job that councils don't do.
Yeah.
Like,
what is their policies on economics?
Control your bins and control your NHS services. And you voted for the party that says, hey, let's privatize all these public services.
There was a great...
But can't actually help with the thing that they said they wanted to do. And you were voting for it.
There was a great video I saw the other day, and it was the Family Guy episode where Lois is running for school governor. And it's the one where they're doing the debate, and she's like, someone convinces her to just say, look, the voters will believe anything if you make it sensational enough. So it's like, oh, how would you deal with the cost of school lunches? And she goes, 9/11 was bad. And they all start clapping. And every single answer she has about school governing, 9, 11. And then someone took that video and they were like, so what's reforms UK view on the economics? How would you solve the deficit? And they're just going, immigrants. Okay, so how would you sort out the issues with the NHS? Immigrants. How would you deal with the transport infrastructure and improving British roads? Immigrants. And it was just that.
I was trying to explain to someone the other day, like a friend of mine.
Preying on someone's fears, basically.
But it's the fact that the logic doesn't support it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the fact of, hey Damon, hey Joe. Well, thank you for the chat.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, hey
Joe
hey,
and David, my handsome men.
But it's a friend of mine, okay, who is a Syrian refugee. Him and his family fled over from the war in Syria because their house got destroyed. They fled over here, and he's basically, after like I think 6 years now, he's basically trying to claim citizenship. So he's basically like, you know, doing all the applications and doing all that, and he has to do the
right
exams
thing.
and stuff. But it's the whole thing of going to get off the list of being an immigrant, to get off the bad thing that reform is. He has to do all of this stuff so that he comes off that, because that's the statistic they're using. They're not using like, oh well, these are the statistics for all the people who specifically came over illegally, and it's like, well, the people who came over illegally can't access the services that you're saying that they're robbing us with. So yeah, but the problem is, per family member, he has to pay £7,500, and he has this money because he's been working hard. Like, he's literally had a job, he's been working hard. But I'm like, I did not know it was that much. I thought it was like a couple of £100 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there being like, so he's going to put all of that money for his whole family into the pot for Britain, and yet we're saying they're the reason why there's no money, you know? Like, it's
An
he's been
entire
paying
life
taxes for years.
savings.
He's
Yeah.
going to pay a ludicrous amount of money just to gain citizenship, and then there's still going to be people being like, oh well, he should be sent back, and
But
you
they
know, it's
tar
like
them all
to
with
a
the same
war-torn
brush.
country.
Yeah, they tar them all with the same brush.
Yeah.
And again, it's
The same we get with Romulans and Klingons in this episode.
It's preying upon people's poorly educated beliefs and just drip feeding them just enough relevant information to get them to your calls without giving them the full picture of anything. And you just sat there and you're like, you don't have the ability to think for yourself. You don't have the ability to look at the evidence and then make an informed decision. Someone comes along. Let's be honest. Oh God, this is why we don't do live.
know though.
But let's be honest, right? The leader is a grifter. He is a massive grifter. He's a multimillionaire. He has 4 houses.
He's voted against workers' rights every single time he's possibly been able to.
Rights on women's reproductive rights, shall we say, because we can't say the word. He's essentially
Virginia.
the anti-working class. But because, like that Lois Griffin clip, 9/11 was bad, because he just sits there and goes, immigration, and you just...
And I think this is the problem, though. What we see, though, is it's not about the grifters in charge. It's not about the demagogues saying whatever. It's the fact of you have people who have opinions, who can't justify those opinions, who refuse to justify those opinions, but just want to act upon them. Where they're going, hey, I'm scared of immigrants. We need to get rid of the immigrants. So let's just find the evidence that makes them bad. And it's the same as we get in this episode, where it's like, hey, we know there's a conspiracy. We know that Tarsis is like a liar, so we've just got to find the bits that connect all of that and make it true. And it's like, that's not how truth works. That's not how law works. Hey, Jen.
Hey,
welcome
Jen.
to the chat.
Welcome. I'm so sorry. This is our 15th tangent of the episode so far. This is why we don't go live.
I think it's really relevant.
It is absolutely relevant, but this is why we barely go live, because when we do, we keep you all here for at least 6 hours. We are the Ken Dodd of Star Trek podcasts. Anyway, that's a very niche reference.
Get out your tickle stick.
If you get that reference, we can be friends. But anyway, you were saying.
No, I've forgotten it now. I got distracted.
Good. Moving on.
David's
Oh God,
here
it's Jen. It's Jen, everybody. It's Jen.
Hello. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the chat, Jen.
I'm gonna put the candle away.
but it's. I don't know what else we need to discuss with the episode. To be fair, but
we
it's
need
the
to
idea
discuss.
of-
We need to. We have to discuss the ending of the episode, because the unraveling of Sati in such a public. Her own plan goes against her. Her own, she wanted a show trial. She wanted to bring them down, and it's her undoing. And the one thing I absolutely love about this scene in the court, right? It's not Picard's speech. It's not Sati going absolutely, completely off the mark and unraveling in front of everyone. It's the fact that the Admiral and the head of Starfleet Security looks, stands up, and just quietly walks out of the room. That is brilliant.
It's brilliant. It's the fact that that character, the Admiral, what's his name? Thomas. Oh no. Yeah, Thomas Henry of Starfleet Security, and it's the fact that he doesn't get a line in the episode, but he has such an impact because his actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
And that's very much the important thing about this, where basically Picard gives his speech in a rebuttal to Sati, and Sati loses her cool. She starts yelling. The mask falls away, and we see that she's actually this desperate witch hunter, like a witch finder general, trying to sort of like just accuse people of whatever, and she's doing it for personal reasons. She's doing it because she feels like attacked, and it's the fact that he immediately just goes, okay, I've seen enough now. We can see that this is, she is not, in her right mind. And it's the fact that everyone loses faith. But the one thing I want to say, though, which I think is really important about the triad, so obviously we have Admiral Sati, we have Saban, and we have Space Bjork. And it's the fact of, like, they're this close unit, and they trust each other, and they welcome Picard into it, and they welcome Worf into it, but they're all individuals. They are all wolves that are fighting for themselves, and they have these temporary alliances based upon them wanting the same agenda, but they all throw each other under the bus in some kind of way, where it's the fact of basically when Worf basically points out like how the Klingon Zidane was like transporting information to the Romulans, they go, oh, he's trustworthy, we shall let him into our group, kind of thing.
He's going to be a very useful asset.
Yeah. And it's this, and it's also Sati. She is insidious. She is a trained liar. She is a trained sort of sucking up to people, because she starts being so comforting. She comes over and she's ingratiating to Picard. She's saying, oh, I didn't think I'd be able to work with you, but obviously you're amazing. Oh my God, Worf is absolutely brilliant. And then saying to Data and Geordi, oh, I don't envy you your jobs, but I'm sure you'll do great work and stuff. And it's the fact that she's lovely to everyone. She's kind of raising everyone up, kind of thing. And it's all just lies. It's all just kind of, she will attack anyone as soon as they start going against her. And there's no trust between anyone.
But how many people have worked for people like that?
Yeah.
How many people have had managers like that, where they let you into their clique, but at the drop of a hat?
I had one. It was years ago, but it was literally an assistant of mine at work got accused. They got accused. A manager basically was saying some dodgy stuff, saying, "Hey, this thing's all wrong and it doesn't meet my expectations at all," kind of thing, and blah blah blah. And they actually organized like a sort of disciplinary for this assistant. And it was, to basically go like, hey, why did you mess all of this up and stuff? And I was like, and I invited myself into it by being like, you're not allowed to do this. And it basically was what happens in the Drumhead, where it was like a team of people, like, the higher ups or whatever, sitting there attacking this single employee, saying, hey, you're the reason of this. And obviously I'm kind of coming in basically going, okay, so here's all of the emails that were sent, and here's you specifically asking him to do the thing that you're accusing him of, and all of this. And it was like the end of this episode, where she basically was just going like, walking out with her tail between her legs, and everyone just being like, oh, did you say that? And she's like, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. And it's like, you still signed it off. You know, it's even if
Yeah.
you shouldn't have signed it off if you didn't mean it. And it was just this room full of embarrassed people that were ganging up on someone, and then immediately afterwards had to be sort of like going, oh, okay, we've messed up here,
Yeah.
and it's horrible. But you see people do it, and then how quickly they turned on each other in order to do this. But it's
Yeah, to deflect the blame. But with this,
yeah,
with
and
this
that's
scene,
what it's all about. It's all about they're fighting for this purpose to get personal honor, but then when there's actual blame, they immediately throw people under the bus. So what we see with Worf is they take Worf under the wing. They say, "Oh, he's brilliant. We're working with him, great." And then it's soon at the end where he actually turns round and Saban says to him, "Oh, well, I didn't think I'd be able to trust you because of something your father did." And you're like, "Why does that come into it? Why should father be like, son be like father?" And then he goes, "Oh, but I was obviously wrong about you." And then as soon as Worf steps out of line and stops agreeing with Saban and Sati, Saban immediately brings it up in court and goes, "Oh, well, I can't understand why Picard would have a security officer whose dad is like a Romulan spy." And Worf, you see the look on Worf's face where he immediately just goes like, sort of, "I've been used. I've been
yeah,
used. These people were never my friends. They were never.
yeah,
We were never fighting for the same cause.
yeah,
I was just a tool to them on their journey."
yeah.
And it's yeah, and it's exactly, and it's what happens with Picard. There's a wonderful mild scene. Sorry, I'm going on a bit. Sorry, forgive me, but I love this episode so much. There's a wonderful little bit where when Picard is asking people to do things when he's in good graces with Sati, people comply. Saban complies, and Space Bjork complies. But then when he falls out of favor, when he starts disagreeing with Sati, then we get a scene where basically Picard basically tries to stop Sati and Space Bjork in the corridor, and Sati deliberately ignores him until he goes, "Hey, blah blah blah," and repeats himself. And then she starts talking, and then Picard goes, "I want to speak to you in private. Uh, I want to speak to you in private without sort of getting noted." And Space Bjork keeps typing. She keeps typing on a thing. She keeps scribing everything until Sati goes, "All right then," and then she gives up. So
Yeah.
Space Bjork doesn't listen to Picard anymore because he's out of the fold. He's no
Yeah.
longer part of the elite, and
Yeah.
waits for Sabin to say this. And it's a slight little thing, but it points out this whole like, "Oh well, you've got to be in our clique in order to,
And how many of us in our lives have had that? I mean, God, I've gone through it as
Yeah.
very recently. I have
We've all gone through it.
but very recently, I have gone through it as well, where you were in the fold, shall we
Yeah.
say? They I wouldn't say trusted you, but they allowed you to be there. But the moment,
Yeah.
not that you do anything wrong, but the moment you step out of line or question the leadership,
Disagree with them.
you
Yeah.
disagree. That's it. They turn, and then you are on the outside looking in, and they will be planning your demise. They will be planning your they were planning my downfall, but they
Yeah.
were planning the downfall. And it is, when you review this episode and you see that people who have gone through it, it's so hauntingly similar. And like Synoiz said, when they're in that corridor and Picard is asking for Sati, he's calling her name and he's calling her name, and then Sati stops, deliberately ignores him, but stops. It's a flex of power
Yeah,
and
it's
superiority, because this is your ship. You are the captain, but I am the admiral, and I am running this show, and I will make you wait for me. And then
Yeah.
just the visual, like because what I loved was Picard. They meet in the corridor. The shot is, there's the corridor, there's three of them there, there's Sati, Picard, and Space Bjork, right? Picard deliberately interjects between Space Bjork and Sati. "Can I have a word with you, Admiral, in private?" Doesn't even glance at Space Bjork,
Yeah.
because he knows Sati thinks that she runs all this. I am not going to ask Space Bjork to go. I am asking Sati to ask Space Bjork to go. So even Picard knows how to play the game at
Yeah.
the point where he's already been excluded from the group, because he knows by doing that it's mildly ingratiating him to Sati to further his objective to get her to stop this witch. And
Yeah.
it's people, we have done this. We might be excluded, we might have been pushed out, but you know how these people want you to behave, and you know by doing that you're able to sort of manipulate them a little bit,
Yeah.
where they still think they've got the upper hand, but you just know how they operate, you know how
this
they
is the thing.
want to play the game.
And truly honest people aren't easy to manipulate.
No.
And that's the thing. It's the idea of, if you're easy to manipulate, it suggests that you have flaws. And obviously we
Yeah.
all have flaws, but it's the fact that Picard can do that. But it's the fact of, like we say about the click. And then at the end, after Sati goes off it in the courtroom, we see that, like, I've forgotten his name. I've mentioned it so many times.
Sabin.
Sabin basically goes, oh, he's got a bit
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, right, cool. And then he's like, I think we should have we should adjourn for the day. And then the next shot, he's gone. We don't see him leave. And I was watching to see if he gets up and leaves, but he's just gone in the next shot, which says everything. And then Space Bjork is there.
She's the
and
very
just kind of
last one to
silently just
leave.
goes, and then just slowly walks out.
That-
and we
the
leave Sati on
symbolism.
her own.
Yeah. The symbolism of her most loyal, trusted, not trusted, but
Yeah.
her most loyal fan, or whatever you want to call them, is the last one. And she stops typing, and she looks, and everyone else has gone, and she makes that decision to abandon Sati as well. And it's a very telling scene, and I love the way they do it. I love the way they pull out.
Sati has no friends. She says she has
she
no
is
friends.
isolated.
And we see, as soon as she steps out of line,
We'll
she's
see
got
it in the
nothing.
slideshow in a minute, but yeah.
So I carry on what we were saying about
But
the panning out.
it's when the shot pans out, because the show trial is over, they have adjourned, but it's the fact that the camera pans out and you just see everyone leave, but it's almost in damn choreographed order. So you get Sabin's already gone, Worf goes, and then Picard leaves, and then the very last person is Space Bjork, and it's sort of like there,
the fanatical
right, like
follower.
That shot there is the best shot, and that's why I used it for the cover, because it is the best shot of the episode, because after everything, in the end, no matter what, she is always alone.
Yeah, and she doesn't question this. She doesn't go, why am I alone? Like, why are my alliances so fragile? Like, she says specifically, oh, I don't like working with other people because partnerships tend to be a bit lopsided. And you're going, that suggests that you don't know how to work with people. That suggests that you're not honest enough, or you're not sort of like, like people who aren't good with working with other people tend to be difficult people. Like I'm very much like it, but like my dad especially, he cannot work with anything. Whenever we do anything and we try and go like, okay, we'll put a cupboard together or something, or we'll sort of put some IKEA furniture together and he'll come over, everyone else will just end up standing in the other room and he'll be doing it all himself because he's impossible to collaborate with. But that's just him, but it shows
I
a lack of trust in our ability to help.
I liked working alone. I've always been a loner. I like doing things by myself, but it's the evolution of yourself to learn to work with others, and to learn that you are not the be all and not be all and end all, but you have your weaknesses, and that your weaknesses are other people's strengths, and that you can achieve greatness if you collaborate and work together. I mean, look at this half-pinted train wreck of a podcast. I would.
To be fair,
this would be nothing.
I'll just leave you to do 90% of the work.
This would
That's
be
how
nothing.
This works.
This would be nothing without Synoiz's drug-induced rants, the delicious construction and design of how this all looks, thanks to Mike Overton of Clone Star, and my sleepless, endless nights of finishing work, turning off that laptop, turning on this computer, and then getting the sound effects, getting the animations, doing the intro,
Yeah.
doing the promotions, doing the loading screen, doing the thumbnail, doing this, doing that. And it's like, I'm good at this. Synoiz is good at this. Mike is good at this. And it's sort of like, you know your own limits. But people like Sati, they're like, nope, I can do it all. I can do it all. I don't know what you mean. I
She
can do
would
it all.
throw Saban under the bus as soon as Saban doesn't agree with her, and she
Yeah.
would do it herself, you know? And that's the problem there. But yeah, sorry, just looking at the chat, Jen. Yeah, you're right. Everyone has been through it. Everyone
Has been
that kind
through
of group, that Mean Girls thing, where suddenly, you know, the flip of a, you know, like a flip of a hat. I don't know, flip of a coin. And you're not in the group anymore because you said the wrong thing or stuff like that, and you're like, well, that's not really friendship, and why would you want to be in that
but it's
group, you know?
also you have to realize if that happens, then you have saved yourself from that toxic situation. So you have to think of it as a benefit, if you will.
And-
Everything
but
is
the
done for a
irony
reason.
The irony is, though, that she's like this, and she has a big speech about Starfleet values and how we have to live up to the Federation and we have to follow the Prime Directive and everything. And I'm like, the whole point of Starfleet is loads of different cultures, loads of different sort of species, loads of different people and personalities and viewpoints, all acting together, all working together as one. And yet she's very much kind of like going, nope, it's my way or the highway.
But
and
it's
that's
always
the only way I work.
It is always right. Well, not always, but it's mostly those type of people that tout the values, the meaning, the ethos, the ethics, and blah 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 of a company that do not portray them. They don't. They don't live them. They don't display them. They are just a mouthpiece. They are just Control C and Ving what they are reading, and they are not living it, but they will
not understanding it.
They will punish you until the ends of the earth because you are not doing it. But and then you don't have the power to go, well,
And
neither are you.
And the reason why you're not doing it is because they need someone to be under them. They need to push themselves higher because that's how they, get their self-worth of everything. And it's one thing I do want to mention that I just want to say while I do here is it's quite one thing, like now that we're talking about the Picard scene where basically they put Picard in the chair and they go, hey, and it's because they go, we need to destroy Picard as a person in order to devalue his opinion upon the trial and upon the evidence. So they literally attack him on a personal level or on a professional level, totally unrelated to the actual court
I'm just
case.
lowering your screen, love. Please keep going. Sorry. Mini editing.
Oh,
No, I
Lord,
made you
move
bigger.
me
Oh,
about.
oh, God.
Oh, you've made me bigger.
Oh!
The joy of a live podcast.
Control C. Sorry.
But
This is why we
know
don't
what I
do
mean,
live.
Though? You know what I mean, though? Where basically they try and destroy him, so they bring up all of this horrible stuff from the past. Like it's where is it? They bring Worf's heritage up, and they mention how many times Picard has broken the Prime Directive, which is 9 times, and they bring up the incident
because they're
with
looking
the
for
Vulcan ambassador
they're
to
looking
tell-
at anything that they can corroborate, and they can
Yeah.
say, well, they're bad because they
Yeah.
did this 4 years ago.
And it's that weird thing, and you just go, and you see it so much, but you just go like, okay, so rather than providing evidence for why there's a conspiracy, you're trying to destroy the person who's saying that there's not a conspiracy, because you believe that if you destroy the person saying that there isn't a conspiracy, then you take away that voice saying there isn't one, and therefore there must be one. And it's, and you see it a lot in politics. You see it a lot in like when they get the leaders fighting against each other, and you're like, you're not talking about what you're doing. You're talking about trying to make the other guy seem like
You're
a
trying
bad
to score
guy.
brownie points.
Yeah, and it's so dumb. And they mention obviously Wolf 359. They mention
Cassandra.
when, he was a Borg. Hey Cassandra, welcome to the chat. But it's so telling that they do that. But one thing before I forget about it that I really think is important about this episode is the imagery. Like the costume designer needs an award for this, because when we see Saban the Betazoid and Sati's costumes, they're very metaphoric, they're very indicative of what they are. So Saban's collar is backwards, so his collar indicates that he's lopsided. It indicates that there's something wrong with him as how he presents to people, where his collar is backwards. So it literally looks like he's wearing his shirt the wrong way round. And it's kind of this hint that basically there's something a bit wrong with him or that he's not doing things properly. And then Sati has this out she has a collar that she wears throughout the episode, and I thought it was two different dresses, but I think it's just a collar piece. There she is wearing it in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
picture there. And she's got this collar and it's bigger on one side. It's lopsided and it's showing her prejudice. It's showing that she's not a balanced, she's not a logical person who's like sort of looking for honesty. It's demonstrating that she's actually prejudiced, like, and then she has this jewelry that she uses that looks like a noose, that maybe I'm assuming that, but it's the idea of, and she wears it throughout. But in the scenes where she's presenting in front of people, like the court cases where there's other people there, she doesn't have the collar on. She's got the standard outfit, it's all balanced and whatnot. And so it kind of just goes, okay, so in personal things, she's willing to talk about this and she's willing to sort of be
Yeah.
biased. But then when she's up in front of people, being watched by people, she's got the sensible collar on, going, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with me. And it's just this little nod that the costume designer deliberately did. Like, to go, hey, we just want to tell you that there's something a bit off balance with these characters.
This is Synoiz's passion episode. Can you tell? When I get my own passion episode, I will be. You will have to shut me up somehow. But the way that the passion that he is displaying here, because I've seen these episodes. I mean, God, I am 37 years old, but I have
Young.
seen these episodes. I don't feel it. I have seen Space, the bad back front here.
Yeah.
I have seen these episodes hundreds of times. I love Star Trek. I have made a conscious. You're all gonna laugh. I have made a conscious mental decision that every weekday I am going to watch an episode of Star Trek. I'm going to start with the Next Generation. I'm going to go through the TNG era. I'm going to start with Star Trek The Next Generation. And every weekday I'm going to watch it because I'm going to treat it, because this is the whole thing of Trekking Up North and the Search for Trek and Clone Star and all the other 600 million podcasts I do. Talking about Trek, watching Trek, embracing Trek is like a mental self-centered reset for me.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's a comfort show, we all know that, but it's that reset that I need every day. I could have had this day at work, I could have had a bad day, whatever. Having Star Trek there is that reset. And the passion that Synoiz has for this episode, I have for a number of episodes, he's got for a number of episodes, but we both share the same passion for Star Trek as a whole, because we firmly believe episodes like The Drumhead can teach people valuable lessons. And why we are so passionate about this episode is it's been 34 years.
Yeah.
We've not learned as a culture. We have not gone past what is happening in this episode. It was the same for Ad Astra Per Aspera in Strange New Worlds. Again, we have not learned from history. We have not learned from the past. We have not evolved past this thing. It is still happening, and this is an episode I think that Gene Roddenberry would have been proud in, because it's like, yeah, in the 24th century there are still going to be people like that, and Picard makes that reference at the end of the episode, that there is always going to be these types of people in the world.
And it's this idea. It's the same as, like, you get so many people where they try and compartmentalize life and they try to control everything in order to make themselves safe. That's what this episode is. It's like, let's just take away everyone's freedoms and let's sort of like look into their history and let's do everything like they're doing in America, and then we'll be safe. And it's like, no, life isn't about the trick to having a happy life isn't taking away all of the threats. It's getting better at dealing with the threats when they happen. It's getting better at going, hey, let's stop the scary situation happening. No, let's get better at rolling with the punches. What's the Chinese metaphor about, like, don't be the rock in the stream, be the water going around it, or whatever. Like, you have to flow with the water rather than sort of fight against it.
I'm from Redcar. I'm just like, don't fuck up.
Yeah. but essentially, it's that thing of you need to treat life that way. You can't just be like, well, if we just take away everyone's freedom, then we'll be fully secure. And it's like, no, no,
How many
you'll
times
just
has that
start
worked?
being terrified about something
Yeah.
else.
How many times has that
Yeah.
worked? Hmm?
Well,
Read a
Germany
book.
did well in the 40s, I guess. Oh wait, they lost. But it's that, and it's terrifying seeing it. But the parallels between everything. It's bizarre that you mention Ad Aspera. I've moved my cup away. Oh no, it's not. It's it. Oh.
Oh! Anyway.
But yeah, it's interesting you mention Ad Astra per Aspera because I was going to bring up the outfit observation on that one because
Another space nut. Welcome to the
hey,
chat.
welcome,
I am so
another space
happy.
nut.
I could just before we get to Ad Astra, I am so happy to see so many wonderful people, wonderful new people, wonderful revisiting people. All of my friends here.
Who are
Thank
staying
you.
around.
Thank you. Who are staying? What is wrong with you? Thank you. Just, I promise you this. Please stay for the double wheel. Because
God.
if I know Chris from the transporter room, I
Oh.
am going to be either upset or incredibly angry. But please stay for that. But thank you so much, all of you, for joining. We love each and every one of you as much as we love Star Trek. Ad Astra, go.
Oh yeah, Ad Astra, because we see the same costume thing as I was mentioning with Admiral Satie here, where the lawyer in Ad Astra, who we love, who is one of our favorite characters in Strange New Worlds, and she's only in one episode.
I
But
hope
she
she
has
comes
the
back.
same thing because she is biased, and therefore her outfit is lopsided. Her outfit is asymmetrical throughout the entire episode, but it doesn't fit as tidily. There's scenes where she doesn't have that outfit on, and I couldn't, and I was just like, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree with this. But there was bits where you're just going, she has asymmetrical outfit, but to demonstrate that she hates Starfleet. She's coming into the case with like an agenda, and she's looking for the things to prove her agenda. So she's effectively like Satie. She's like the anti-Satie, where they start off in the same place, but then she kind of looks at stuff and goes, oh, actually maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe there is like stuff, maybe Starfleet isn't that bad, and maybe there is actually a solution here. And so it's quite interesting that there are parallels between Ad Astra per Aspera and the Drumhead, and how much that brings Strange New Worlds into Star Trek canon, because the writers must have gone, hey, it's a courtroom episode, so let's tie it to all the other courtroom episodes.
The thing is as well, speaking of like references to other series and stuff like that, another space note is slowly becoming a Trekkie thanks to the transporter room. I'm so glad that you are here. Firstly, I'm sorry. Secondly, you will get to know all of our little quirks very quickly. Candle slag. The what?
I'm sorry. I'm interested in Joe's pasta coma. What pasta have you had? Have you had?
Are you pasta coma, or
spaghetti?
have you had
what
pasta?
Type?
Yeah.
Is it penne? Is it rigatoni? Is it? They're the only ones I know.
Is it the one with the cheese? I like the one with the cheese. I've started eating pasta.
Have you?
Yeah, I'm a
Wait,
very.
well, hang on. You're like
for those,
37.
For those that don't know, I am an incredibly fussy eater, like amazingly fussy eater. So
that's why I got 3 of your meals on the plane to Vegas.
Yes, you did. 3? Wait, what? There was only 2. What? You stole my food? Anyway,
I got 6 meals. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I'm starting to eat a little better. So yeah,
the kid next to me wouldn't have his meal, so his mum gave it to me. His mum didn't want it, so gave half of it to me. Goodwill didn't want his. I had like 4 meals per flight.
Pesto.
It was amazing.
Pesto con. Whatever.
I think it's a type of dog.
Is it? Oh, Chihuahua shapes. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, Chihuahua. It's where.
But yeah, so. The thing is with the thing is with the Drumhead, it is one of those where it's been hard to replicate since the Next Gen did it, and Ad Astra tried but sort of succeeded in its own unique way. But
it's a beautiful episode in its own right.
But it reminded me, and I have been on somewhat of a Battlestar hinty, I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. Don't walk away.
Sorry,
he's back.
you
Sorry.
started talking about Battlestar and I got bored. No.
Oh, don't eat
No,
them
I just
over.
realized I need to turn the light on because you
Oh.
can start seeing the blemishes on my face.
I thought that something might start coming through the rug, but so yeah, like, obviously I love Battlestar Galactica. I will fight anyone. I will die on that hill. That Battlestar Galactica is one of, if not the most greatest science fiction show ever made. In their season 1, which 21 years ago, they had an episode called Litmus. Season 1, episode 6. Now, the plot of that is a Cylon sneaks aboard and blows himself up, causes damage, and there is a hunt because they have to reveal that Cylons are now human, and they reveal it to the general populace, and there is a essentially an investigation that's carried out, and this investigation soon becomes a court trial, and again it's a show trial. There's a civilian civilian witnesses, a jury and everything like that, and it's exactly the same thing that happens in The Drumhead, where the people's prejudices, fears and suspicions and constant conspiracies flying through their head gets the better of them. And what I love is that instead of the investigator, instead of the person leading the investigation sort of unraveling, it's a Dharma just going, this is a damn witch hunt, I'm done, we are done, and just walks away. And I think outside of like the realms of Star Trek, that is possibly one of the better courtroom episodes of a science fiction show that closely resembles The Drumhead, where it's like, this is a witch hunt. You are just doing this because you are looking for something that is not there. You want to find a conspiracy where no conspiracy is present. We are done, and that's it. And I love that because it really portrays Edward James Olmos as like that. It's not just a man of action. It's like, no, that Picard level of, no, we are done. This is a show trial. This is a witch hunt. And it's literally like Picard says, it's the Drumheads. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Yeah,
but it's the wonderful way that sci-fi can reflect real life. Like people like another space nut. Like obviously you're not massively into Trek. You're just getting into it now and stuff. So it's
you
wonderful
will
that you're joining
be.
it. But I would definitely say that the episode that we're talking about today, The Drumhead, is one of the entry-level episodes. I'd say, like it's not about Trek. You don't need to know who all the characters are. You don't really need to know that. It's basically the story that they're telling. So it's a great episode to jump in on and kind of go, oh, okay, cool. Do I enjoy this level of sort of drama and discussion? What's the other one? The one that I always tell people to watch is Duet from DS9.
I thought you were going to say Measure of a Man.
No, Duet from DS9 is one of the things where it's like, if you've never watched Trek before, watch this episode, because it doesn't really matter about, like, you knowing the characters, or knowing, like, the Bajorans and stuff like that. It's just the story it tells is wonderful and kind of introduces you to all the characters, because they're all there in their archetypical forms. The same way that here we have Worf's the security guy, Data and Geordi are the science guys, Troy is the counselor, Picard is the honest captain. They're all kind of doing their, Crusher is there. They're all doing their kind of, how is Crusher in the thumbnails, Goodwill? She does nothing in there. She goes,
listen,
yeah,
no,
I did some medical stuff.
No, I am not having that. All hail Dr. Beverly Crusher.
No.
All hail the candle slag. Dinner light that candle.
Don't make me put the wig on.
No, don't put the wig on. No.
Oh, yes.
We don't want to lose the viewers. Dinner light that candle.
Didn't like that candle. But
thank God we've already covered Sub Rosa.
Picked it up off the floor, but yeah.
Thank God we've covered Sub Rosa already. I couldn't do that with.
I'm gonna put it back in the wheel.
Blazing Bev. No, we're not doing Blazing Bev. A particularly erotic part of my grandmother's novel.
That is not a good starting episode. Sub Rosa is not a good starting episode.
It has nice sets. It has nice sets. do you have any more notes for the Drumhead? I am assuming
I've
that
been
you've
looking
got
through
hundreds.
while you're talking there, and I zoned out. I was looking through them. No, it's really. I'm honestly, I'm excited for when we start doing Battlestar. I'm saying when because I know that it is going to happen.
It's
But
about
when we do
6
start
years from
covering
now. Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, it's the fact of I love that it's going to be a reason for me to rewatch it.
Hey Chuck, thank you for
Hey, Chuck.
joining.
We're tidying up here, like we're at the end of our stream, but it's the fact that,
Dystopian
like,
Prophet, hello,
this
thank you for
episode
joining.
is amazing. Hey, Dystopian Prophet. Hey, everyone.
Please, like you're joining us. We more or less finished our review of the Drumhead. We're moving on to the Double Wheel and Chris from the Transport Room's challenge. But please, if you have the time, go back and listen to our review. I
genuinely think we've discussed everything. I mean, the only thing I want to reiterate, because I think it's so incredibly important, is how dangerous the people allowing governments and allowing authorities to check into our personal data and being able to have access to our personal data because they suspect something. Like the scene where Worf basically goes, "Hey, look into this guy's background and look into his like sort of logs and stuff like that because there's got to be something there," and it's based upon nothing. It's based upon a hunch, a suspicion. And like you're saying, you're going to American airports now, and they're like, "Hey, unlock your phone, let us look through them," and you're like, "No, nothing should ever trod on that freedom whatsoever." The idea we shouldn't be saying, "Hey, if you're not willing to give us access to your phone, then you must be hiding something." It's like, that's not how guilt works. That is not how freedom works. That's the main thing I would say, like ties that to this modern day, and I hate it.
If you guys have never seen the Drumhead, or you're just starting out in Star Trek, it is as what I said at the beginning of this review. It was designed to be a bottle episode. So what that means is a bottle episode in the days of 26 episodes, you would have a budget for 26 episodes. However, some would need more money than others, so they would devise what they call bottle episodes. Now, for example, the Shuttle Pod 1 from Star Trek Enterprise was a bottle episode. It was a small, low budget. They had like 2 sets and that was it. This was designed to be that. It was designed to be the bottle episode, but it became such a classic among Star Trek fans that it's probably one of the most successful bottle episodes that's ever been because of all the my mind's just gone blank.
The discussion surrounding it,
the discussion surrounding it, the relevance to today in society, and the lasting message that it has given people.
And they didn't need to make any new sets. They didn't literally just needed the costumes for the 3 other characters, and then everyone else is the same. So it's this idea of it's on no budget, but it's pointing out like this is the difference between loved Star Trek and like things like J.J. Abrams' thing, where it's like, no, it needs to be big budget and explosions and this, that, and the other, and we need all this stuff. And it's like, no, we just need great fleshed out characters discussing stuff or having a plot. We don't need all this fancy stuff.
Because this is the thing, like this, obviously they had a set. This episode finished $250,000 under budget.
Did they have a pizza party or something? Were they just like,
that's one hell of a pizza party in 1991. That's at least 2 Domino's pizzas.
Well, no. That if there was a deal on, maybe. If there was a deal on, because Domino's is pretty expensive, if I'm honest.
We need to do a joint Transporter Room and Trekkin Up North review of Shuttle Pod 1.
That would be a good one, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. If it comes up on the Dabble Wheel,
it's not on the Dabble Wheel.
Is it not on the Dabble Wheel? No, after
neither of us picked Shuttle Pod 1.
No, after our selection. But guys, that has been, after 2 years, that has been our review of the Next Generation episode, The Drumhead. And I am trying to delay the next segment of the show because I know he's been waiting. He's sat at work. He is sat at work right now waiting for us to get to this challenge. And I am dreading it because our friend of the show, Chris, from the Transporter Room, everyone please, if you're not a member of the Transporter Room, go down in the description below and subscribe. He has sent us a challenge. I don't know what the challenge is. I literally booted up the studio, plopped it into the screen on mute, and I left it. Synoiz knows what it is because
our technology requires him to send it to me on WhatsApp because I can't hear it when we play it here. So this is Goodwill's first time doing it. I've been dwelling over it in my head during this
Before we get to it, what we have asked our lovely viewers, and anyone can send us these, and I will get into how you can do it below after. We have the Dabble Wheel of Honor and the Dabble Wheel of Shame with 12 episodes each in them. Now, these are episodes that myself and Science Officer Synoiz have chosen. 6 of our favourite episodes each. 12 of our they could have been better episodes, shall we say. So we got the Dabble Wheel of Honor, the Dabble Wheel of Shame. Each week, one of our fantastic viewers can send us a challenge, and what we have to do, we have to pass that challenge live on the show. If we pass it, if we get it right, we spin on the Dabble Wheel of Honor. If we fail miserably, as we do often, we spin the Dabble Wheel of Shame.
It's like a pattern.
If you want to send us a challenge, it has to be in a 16:9 format. 9:16 format.
Portrait format, yeah.
Sorry, dyslexic with numbers. Portrait format. And it can be any of our contact information below or on our Gmail, which is on the YouTube channel. You can set us that challenge and you will be featured in a future episode of Trekking Up North. So the challenge could be anything Star Trek related. Please don't ask us to strip. Not again. Twice was enough.
Not without paying. I love what Chuck's added to the chat of basically saying that this is apparently Michael Dorn's favourite episode of Trek, which I think is amazing because he has a great role. He has a secondary role, but it's something that tells you a lot about Worf because it's Worf before DS9, because DS9 we see a lot of his biases. We see a lot of him kind of struggling with a different culture and struggling with sort of different things like butting heads with Odo and stuff. So it's kind of great that he likes this episode because I think it's a great one for him, even though he's not the central focus. But yeah, anyway, the Dabble Wheel. So what we're gonna do is you play Chris's challenge, and then we're not gonna put a time limit on it because
are we anything gonna put a time? I had a time limit on some of them because I'm like, yeah, I could do that 60 seconds. I know Chris. It's gonna be. I'm telling you, it's gonna be count the stem bolts in a barrel. I'm telling you.
Let's get it over with. Let's pull the plaster off. Let's see this challenge.
We are receiving an incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
Hello, gents. Transporter Chief Garrus here.
Hey!
The Enterprise D was destroyed 11 times on screen. Name all of the episodes in one movie. Good luck.
It's an easy one. Is it? Did he say specifically the Enterprise D?
Yes. Okay.
The
Right.
episode, it
Okay,
gets blown
right,
up
so-
loads of times in one episode.
Star Trek
one episode
Generations.
that it gets blows up.
Star Trek Generations. So is it 11 times? 11 times. Star Trek Generations.
That's just once though.
Cause and Effect.
That's it. That's the episode. How many times is that?
I believe that was 4 times.
Okay.
So that's 5.
The other one is the last
that's 5.
episode. All Good Things.
All Good Things.
That gets blown up like
so that's
once
6.
or twice. Or
yeah,
it's twice in All Good Things because it's because obviously they have the one from the past and the future and
Parallels.
Mm.
Parallels were multiple enterprises.
Okay.
Times Squared.
Which one's Times Squared?
Is that the one where Picard? I think that's the one. I think Times Squared is the one where Picard, future Picard, travels back in the past because that Enterprise has blown up, and it's like a weird one where he comes into a little. It's an early season, series episode.
Okay, so what we're saying, cause and effect, it gets blown up several times. All
So
good things, I'm saying twice.
Yeah.
Parallels is once.
Yes. How many's that?
Once, I can't count. 7, and then we're saying this
Times Squared.
Times Squared is once.
We're doing right. We're doing right. Twice.
Oh,
for the
and
finale.
then Generations is once. Isn't it?
Generation.
Yeah.
Yes. How many's that?
I can't count. I'm writing Generations. 1. So 6, 9.
9.
2 more times.
God.
It gets. Maybe it happened off camera.
Well, at
Is
least
there
it
one
wasn't
with Q?
stolen 9 times. The one with Q, that's all good things.
Chuck's saying Picard times 2. Does it get blown up in Picard twice? Or is it?
No, it doesn't in Picard. No.
It gets rebuilt in Picard, I guess. So it's like, I don't know. How many times? I think it's 4 times in cause and effect. But if maybe it's 5 and we're on 10. I don't know.
Is the one episode? I don't know. Which film? Star Trek Generations.
Which is the Enterprise that gets done in yesterday's Enterprise?
That's the C.
Oh, bollocks.
Can we count yesterday's Enterprise? Because
I can see you missed the count on one episode you listed.
Oh,
Picard times 2 on Times Squared.
Right.
Okay.
I'm
so
calling
it.
it.
Up twice on.
I'm calling
We're
it.
doing 10. Are we not? Okay.
I can't do it. I can't.
You do realise this puts us at risk of Code of Honor.
Oh God, no! Right, Chris, we lost. I think it was about 9 that we got up to. Please list.
Tell us the answer.
list
We're in
them.
live chat. Tell us the answer.
Oh, for God's sakes! Right, okay.
I only knew cause and effect and all good things. I have
knew he
no
would do
idea about the other ones.
I knew he would do it. No, you can't help Joe. It has to be myself and Synoiz that do.
Well, are we giving in? Are we giving in?
I
and
think we're going to
asking for
give
the
it.
answer?
We're going to give it.
Okay, we're giving
We're
in.
gonna give it.
You've stumped us, Chris.
Give us a
We
list.
don't
Give us
know
a
this.
list, Chris, of the episodes. In the meantime, yet again, we are receiving
3 times in all good things.
3 times in all good things. Generations. So that's 5, 6, 7. Generations
Times
once,
squared.
8 times squared once. Okay.
And then,
Okay.
can we make up an episode and then just,
Yeah. Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
Timescape. Timescape. I knew it was something with
Table flip.
timing.
Timey-wimey.
9, 6,
We
7,
were
8,
close,
9,
though.
10, 11.
Those are...
God. We're receiving an incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
Bring out the double wheel of shame.
God damn it.
Change
Yes,
that
I'm
wheel.
doing it. I'm doing it.
Change that wheel to filth.
Welcome, welcome everybody to the double wheel of shame. For those joining us for the first time, firstly, welcome to Trekkin Up North. Please, if you want to, if we have not deranged you, click that subscribe button and click that like button. It really, really does help us. We've been doing this for 2 years. We started a new channel in February, so we moved away from Nerdy. We're still part of Nerdy Up North, but we moved away to our own channel. Please click that subscribe button. This is the double wheel of shame, or the double wheel of episodes. In this wheel specifically, we have 12 bad episodes. Are you there?
I'm looking at the database.
Right.
I'm trying to work. I can't remember what's in the wheel. I can't remember. It's been too long. I can't remember what's in the wheel. So I'm just looking at the database to see what is actually here.
So what we do, everybody, we make a prediction on what episode we want to see. We spin the wheel, and once the wheel has landed, we all shout at the top of our lungs, "Double!" show, and you all have to comment it, you all have to type it, you all have to open your windows and shout it into the street. You have to send it as a carrier pigeon message and throw it into someone else's window. You need to send it to me via Morse code. You need to find a Marconi wireless transmitter and do it that way. You need to send out a solar flare. If you can use some sort of smoke signal, you need to say Dabo. Regardless of how you do it, slide into my DMs and say Dabo. I will get slightly aroused and then block you. Say Dabo. Okay? So, Science Officer Synoiz. What is in the double wheels, actually? What's in the double wheel of shame? I forgot.
Hold on. Let's have a look.
Because we've been that good.
Okay, we have Balance of Terror, which
The Balance of Terror!
That is a controversial choice, but maybe I can change my opinion on it. We have Spock's Brain. We have The Way to Eden, which is hippie central.
And now to
Space
Eden. Yeah, brother.
Turnabout Intruder.
Oh.
We have the seminal Code of Honor that... Come on, Code of Honor.
If we get Code of Honor,
2 years.
If we get Code of Honor, I guarantee I will end that episode drunk.
No, we have to be drinking if we get Code of Honor. We have Haven. We have Shades of Grey. We have Time's Arrow, which is one of my choices. I know it's someone's favourite, but no.
Shades of Grey was the clip show.
Yep. Move Along Home from DS9.
Hello, Marie, move along. Hello,
Prophet and Lace from DS9. Elogium from Voyager, the one where Neelix is being asked whether he wants to sleep with a 2-year-old, which is there's a discussion to be had there. The Fight from Voyager, which I didn't like. Alice, the one where he
Tom
falls in love
Paris
with a ship.
falls in love with a shuttle. Yeah.
The Forge from Enterprise, which is one of my picks because it's yay. Let's have an entire cast of Vulcans in a desert. That's going to be exciting. I know people will disagree with me in this, but this is why we have the show. This is so we can have this discussion. We have These Other Voyages from Enterprise.
That doesn't exist.
We have Despite Yourself from Discovery. We have Such Sweet Sorrow from Discovery, which is one I put in there. We have Sukal from Discovery. We have Stardust City Rag from Picard. We have Et in Arcadia Ego Part 1 from Picard. Yay, that's a great one, isn't it? We have 2 of 1 from Picard. Most of these are you, the Picard
I
ones.
require medical assistance.
And then from Strange New Worlds, we have the Elysian Kingdom, which is the one I picked, which is the not as good as it could have been on Benga. But yes, there is a lot of there are a lot of episodes still there in the Dabber Wheel of Shame, but they are all ones that we dislike for one reason or another, or we feel takes away from Trek.
We feel, however, last week's episode we did change. Well, I changed my mind on a bad episode. So
well, that's a great thing. That there are ones there. Like I'm pretty sure once we discuss Balance of Terror and we go into the details and we talk to the fans and stuff in the live chat, I'm probably going to change my opinion on it. But maybe I won't. That's the joy of it. It's the reviewing and analyzing Trek by, discussing everything about it.
Okay, guys, I am about to spin the double wheel in 3, 2, 1.
Code of Honor.
Oh,
I saw it there.
Double! Another Next Generation episode.
Declare.
I love this episode. I love this episode.
We're gonna have to have a.
Are we gonna have to have a twain off?
We're gonna have to have a twain off. We're gonna have to get some wigs.
I can't afford it. I have negative.
I'll look on Amazon.
I have negative. I have negative
Wayne
£9.
wigs.
I have negative £9 to last me until the 25th of May. To last me. I am so poor. I have no money. I have negative to last me. Right. Time's Arrow. The synopsis. Season 5, episode 26. This is it's a two-parter.
It's a two-parter.
It's a
tough
2-hour one, so we're gonna have to do parts 1 and 2. So this is season 5, episode 26, and season 6, episode 1. The synopsis for Times Arrow.
Data gets some head.
An engineering team finds evidence of an alien presence on Earth in 19th century San Francisco. Data's severed head, buried 500 years ago. What? That makes no sense.
I think after the success of this one, this probably should be a live episode. Because are our schedules tidying up a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I have time. Like, it's obviously coming up to my birthday, and I'm having to think about organising all
You
of
don't
that
have
nonsense and whatnot.
birthdays. You don't have birthdays.
Not at my age. I'm technically dead in gay years.
You just celebrate. You just celebrate the time you walked out of the womb. Fabulous.
Cut off a limb and count the rings. That's what I say. But cut off my pimp hand and count the rings. That's what we do. But I'm excited for this episode.
I like
It's
this
the
episode.
sort of thing of I put this in the Dabble Wheel of Shame because you know when you watch Trek and you know you have episodes that you love. You get to Measure of a Man, you get to things like you know, the Drumhead and things, and you just go, oh, this is amazing, I could watch this forever. And then you get some episodes where you're like, oh, it's this one. And it's not necessarily that it's awful, but you're just like, this just doesn't resonate with me. And yeah, Times Arrow is one of those ones where I just get a bit sort of like, oh, it's this one. Okay, maybe I won't watch it this run. And yeah, that's controversial opinion. I know that a lot of people love it. I know that it's not necessarily a bad episode. But when we asked ourselves what are our least favorite episodes of Trek, this got my vote for this.
Computer.
So, but it'll be great to discuss it.
Computer, take us back to two-person mode.
Computer. Hello, computer.
I like Times Arrow. I like Times Arrow. It's a time travel episode. We get Mr. Pickard. we get Mark Twain. We're gonna have to find wigs. We're gonna have to find wigs and mustache.
I'm gonna get on Amazon.
We're gonna have to get wigs and mustaches, and we are gonna have to have a new segment called The Twain Off, where we both do historically offensive accents in the style of Mark Twain, where we just go, I do declare, because, you know, lower decks. Fun fact, you can also count the rings in the dent Synoiz left on my face when I told him I wasn't working tonight.
Get back to work. back to the mines, Joe.
This episode is a head above the rest. Oh, Chuck. Most Kez episodes for me. Oh, okay.
Ooh, see, that's it. That's it. Because I'm a big fan of Kez. I do like Kez, but I think she was bad, underused. Well, if you want a Dystopian Prophet, go back and watch our episode on The Gift from Voyager. Because I talk a lot about my feelings on Kez there and how they didn't really use her properly. But yeah, she got like 2 good episodes, and actually a bit like Keiko O'Brien. She got like 1 episode where she got to be a villain, and you were like, there's loads of range here. Why aren't we using this? You know, and it's like, why are you just a random background character?
Did you mention Star Trek's
The Beast,
greatest villain?
The Beast of Trek.
O'Brien. The universe's most feared, omnipotent being. The source of all that's wrong in Star Trek.
We talk about villains in Trek, and we talk about sort of Gulda Kat, we talk about we talk about sort of like Weyoun, we talk about like sort of Seska,
Neelix.
yeah, Seska, yeah, all of these things, but all of them pale in comparison to the true evil of Trek, which
she is
Keiko O'Brien,
the greatest villain.
I've even done a presentation at a UK convention about how she is responsible for every.
Our very first appearance.
That was a thing that happened. I literally had a PowerPoint presentation about Keiko O'Brien being evil
our very
in front
first
of
appearance.
a convention of bewildered people.
Our very
And
first
I was in a
appearance
dress.
at
It
Star
was-
Trek, at the UK's biggest Star Trek convention.
All
Our
of my
very first
memories
appearance.
just seem like drug-induced nightmares.
Because you were on drugs. But we did that PowerPoint presentation about how evil Keiko. In fact, I tell you what we are going to do.
She caused Wolf 359. We're just waiting for the evidence.
Sounds like a drumhead to me.
But where was Keiko O'Brien?
We are gonna do a video. We are gonna do a video exposing the Keiko O'Brien conspiracy, and we are gonna blow this case wide open, because this all stems from the fact: where was Miles O'Brien during season 3 of Star Trek Picard? He would have resolved that within 3 episodes. Why wasn't he there? Keiko O'Brien.
That's it. I just love the idea that hopefully one day Rosalind Chow will do what are they called? You know, where you can pay them to say things.
Cameo.
You can pay them to send you cameo. Hopefully one day she'll do cameo, and we can get her to add to canon, and we can use it as canon that Keiko O'Brien is evil.
I want her as a guest on the show, and I want her to portray the most evil person in the world all the way through, to sort of justify our like theory.
Every other podcast is like, oh, we'd love to get Michael Dorn on. Oh, we'd love to get sort of like Jonathan Frakes on. We're like, no, we need Rosalind Chow. The
one thing that Trekking Up North does different, and we've had Sean Ferrick, we've had everyone on. The one thing we do different is we don't care about you. We just want to know what you think about Star Trek, and we want to review shows with you to the extent that this dude right here went to Terry Farrell, and just went, we'd love to have you on, not to talk about you, just to talk about a Star Trek Voyager episode.
Yeah. The thing is, the whole thing is, like, when we get guests, it's the idea of going, they're sick of answering the same questions. Like, remember when we met Marina Sirtis, and she's like, I've heard this one before. And it's that idea of, like, you talk about the stuff that you don't talk about. Like, I'm interested to know what,
Talk
Terry
to me
Farrell
about seat
thinks
cushions.
what Terry Farrell thinks of other shows and Voyager and stuff, or like, that's the fascinating stuff, the stuff that we've never learned before. But yes, we are wonderfully done, I think.
We are wonderfully done. I'm just once again exhibiting that I possess the very cushions. For those that have gone to Star Trek, for those who have gone to the Star Trek thing in Los Angeles, the Fan Fest, Universal Fan Fest in Los Angeles, and they've gone to the Enterprise D bridge, and they went, the captain's chair looks a little bit low. It seems like you sink into it. What? Why is it that I might have the cushions?
You stole the cushions.
I did not steal these. I did not steal these. No. I did not steal these. These were given to me. Legitimately given to me. These are the very seat cushions from the Enterprise D bridge in season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Because when they tested the seats, Patrick Stewart, poor Patrick, had shrunk a little bit and he was a little bit low, so they needed cushions to raise him.
To raise him like 2 inches.
To make him his equal. 5-finger discount. How dare you! No.
Yeah.
No.
It's a
to
full
be fair,
fist or nothing.
To be fair, these were legitimately given to me. These were not stolen.
I joke, but he did steal them.
I joke. But then Paramount starts, hello.
That requires Paramount to be paying attention to any of their franchises.
Well, you wouldn't make the merchandise, so I stole it. But
But no. But thank you everyone for tuning into the episode. I think we're going to try a live one for the next one. I don't know if it's going to be next week because we're going to have to prepare a little bit. But what we'll do is we'll let you all know. So please follow this channel if you don't, or subscribe to this channel on YouTube. I think we're on Instagram, or we're not on Facebook.
God.
We're on
We're
Instagram,
not on Facebook.
things. And then do that, and then you can join us the next time when we will review Time's Arrow and have a great time doing that. And please tell us in the comments what your opinions of the Drumhead is. We'd love it. The people that are new to Trek who haven't seen this episode, please go and watch it and then tell us what you think about it on X, Twitter, Blue Sky.
No one cares
Discord.
about X. Blue Sky, Discord, Instagram, Threads, just everything. Look at the links down below. Just look at the links down below. All of our friends are there. Please subscribe if you are not a member of Trekkin Up North. Please subscribe to the Search for Trek, my other podcast, where we are reviewing the motion picture 1 minute at a time. Please go subscribe to the Transporter Room, who are a great supporter of this, and we are a great supporter of them. Thank you so much for you all turning up tonight. It has been so much fun. We love doing it live. We've just not had the schedules to do it, so that's why most of it's been recorded.
It's so crazy.
However, until next time, everybody, I have been Captain Goodwill of the USS Adequate. He has been Science Officer Synoiz. Live long and prosper, stay safe, look after each other, and as ever, Miles?
Miles?
Miles? Miles?
Where our daughter go? Where?